Did you guys land on a name for the February time loop movie
I like
podcast?
Loopuary. Loopuary's good.
Yeah,
Loopuary?
Loopuary
Feb
has a good ring
Loopuary.
to it. Feb
Hey,
Loopware? Oh god, that's too hard. I won't be able
Loopuary,
to
Feb
say it.
Loopuary. Loopuary,
Loopuary.
Feb Loopuary is
Feb
the name of it.
Loopuary.
Foot down. The first one we're doing is fucking Groundhog Day, starring Phil Murray and Amy MacDowell. Um, I
Are those their names?
yeah,
Also,
Phil
it is
Murray.
Groundhog Day today. Cool,
Right.
right?
On top
I'm a
of all of
groundhog.
this, and Caitlin's dressed as a groundhog, and I have the patience of Bill Murray in this movie right now.
At what
So
point?
up until he decides that, hey, I'm going to be a good person, that's me. I'm sitting here watching this movie filled with rage about my job and the world, and I'm going, Phil doesn't. He's not like everybody treats him like he's this huge asshole, but he's not that. He's not that bad. He's he's kind of he's kind of a dick,
He's
you
early
know.
90s asshole.
Yeah, everybody around him is way too positive. I get it.
Larry
Um,
isn't. Larry's kind of a dick as well.
yeah, I really only had a couple genuine laugh out loud, but we'll get to that. So why don't we get right into it? I'm the host this week. That's right. I've got the reins, which means it's going to be a nice, tight, short show. We're all going to go to bed real early tonight. Um, we'll start off with the person moving most, which when I looked at the screen was Kaylin. What's your history with this movie? When's the first time you saw it? And if you had one day you could loop over and over again forever, what day would you choose?
Ooh, damn! I didn't know we were gonna get deep with it.
I
Okay.
didn't either until
So
my brain said, "Ask him."
it just
I don't know if that's a
happened.
deep question.
Check this out. I can do like a Jim from The Office, like look at the camera thing now.
Yeah, you can do that.
No, I just did it to make fun of you and realized I was also doing it.
So for Instagram, you're just seeing me look at the camera, but it doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense except for me seeing what I'm seeing. Anyway, sorry, Caleb. Go ahead.
What was that about this
You
being a
stuff your
tight
swords in a
episode?
sack. So tight, toy like a toiga.
Point like a
We're
point.
gonna take you off the reins, Jay. The to your question. So the first part of your question, uh, do you guys know when this movie came out on like TV? Like, would it have been like 94, 95 maybe or something?
Probably.
Because that would have
Well, the
been like
movie
my
came out in
introduction.
1993, so it probably would have been a year or so later, right? Maybe more.
Comes out
I'm
on
trying to
video a
think.
year after in this era. It comes out probably 18 months later. It was on
Year and
television.
a half. Yeah. So, because it would have been through TV, like my first introduction to it, probably on like Superstation or whatever, like catching bits and pieces here and there, kind of thing, and then eventually getting the DVD and watching it in its entirety, front to back. Um, but yeah, as a kid, it's like, oh, he's reliving the same day. He's kind of a jerk or whatever, but then he becomes a nice guy. Ooh, yay! But what day would I want to relive? Because he makes a note, he makes a comment about that. It's like, oh, why couldn't it have been that day or whatever? What day would I relive? Ooh, what day would I relive? What day would I relive? See, like when I said it was a deep question, it's kind of deep because I have to think about it. Like you caught me off guard. Um, is there anything? Do I have any good days that I can? Is this a PG? Is this a PG show?
It's whatever. I just started recording by accident, so Steve, I might need the raw copy off of.
See, this is why I'm going to always record as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Safety. The safety.
Yeah.
Everybody record.
Okay, here it comes. Here it comes. Best day. Best day. Best day. Man, I don't fucking know. Probably, you know what? Probably let's do Halloween when I dressed as Hunter S. Thompson. That was
That
pretty
was a
fun.
good. That was a good night.
Yeah, that was a good
I
one.
remember that. Because the funny thing about that night is by about 9 p.m. We were both so wasted that we were both just Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah.
I believe I was just dressed as myself because I probably had to work till fucking midnight. But
Yeah,
I remember us
around
sitting
there.
in my living room at my place on not Shabbat,
Was it
Windsor.
Brunswick at the? Was it Brunswick at the time?
No, well, you lived there, but I lived. Remember, I lived at like Shabukto and Windsor in that house
Oh yeah.
with
Yeah.
Steve, and it was like me and you. Whatever. It was a bunch of us. We were all fucked up, and you were full Hunter S. Thompson all night. It was crazy. What are you looking at there, Steve?
I was just looking at the clock, wondering how long the story was going to be, because I definitely want to relive this moment over and over
Sorry.
again.
Let's move on. Nice. So we're reliving it now for you over and over. You're
I'll say this.
welcome.
I'll say this one thing. The best part about doing that costume is you can get all twisted, and everyone just assumes you're playing a role, but you can
Yeah,
actually be twisted.
you're just in character. Steve, I'll turn it over to you before I go on my rant about this movie.
Okay. Same questions, I guess.
Same question.
The first time I saw this movie, I was at my cottage when I was a child, and I believe we rented it from like I had a cottage in Bob Cajun, and there was this little video rental place that was also a gas station, I believe, and
Yep.
they only had like 50 movies. Like it was just like a wall of movies or whatever. And my parents rented it, and I guess they're like, "Oh, Bill Murray's fun. This is probably a great movie for our child to watch." Not really. It's kind of boring to watch as a kid. The aspect of time travel or time looping is interesting, I guess, enough to keep my interest as a kid. But I'm like, I don't understand what's happening. And then when he kills himself so many times, I remember being very scared. It's like, oh my god, why is he doing this? But yeah, I watched it a little too young to the point that none of the jokes really landed for me. But I did find this movie to be enjoyable later, when I watched it a couple more times. It was one of those ones that was always on TV. It didn't have to be
Yeah.
Groundhog's Day for the movie to be on TV. It
Yeah.
was one of those like higher cable channels that were just played movies all day. It would be on there.
51 for us anyway. For here.
And I don't know. I feel like every good memory you always will look back upon with rose-colored glasses, sort of like a grass is greener situation where this is like nostalgic part of your brain will remember a day and you want to go back there. But if you think about being in that day, there was probably a lot of shit in that day that was annoying at the time, and it wasn't the greatest day ever. It was only a great day to look back upon it. I think that's kind of like the point of this movie, right? But if I had to pick one, there was one time when I went to Mexico when I was like 26, and me and my friend Nicole pretended to be newlyweds, and we snuck onto a resort, like a
Nice.
very expensive resort, and we went through all the
Nice.
processes of like pretending that we were newlyweds. And like a photographer was following us around and was showing us all the photographs, and we gave him a fake room number to like charge some photos. Oh,
Did you get any
my
merch?
God.
You get any free merch or anything?
We got a
People
bunch
give
of
you, like,
drinks and some food, and we were just charging this
Nice.
room, and like we didn't know who the people were, but they probably had
That's
to dispute some
hilarious.
charges later, or they were so wealthy that they didn't even notice.
Or
But
it was
yeah,
an empty room and the hotel foot the bill.
maybe.
That's
Um,
probably what happened.
It was so
realistically.
funny. I remember like we were posing on this like big swing, and we were pretending to be like in a loving embrace or whatever. It was so funny. It was one of the funniest days of my life. Just sneaking onto, because we snuck on through the beach. Like we just kept walking down the beach, and we came across this like private beach with all these beds everywhere, like these like little cabana hut beds. We just got inside one, and then some guy came over. He's like, "Well, so why are you guys here? What's going on? Well, we're newlyweds." Yes,
We're
freshly married.
newlyweds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
You made
I
me
would
think of
relive
a
that
better
day
answer.
because I thought it was so funny. Yeah. So.
Well, I'm gonna go now.
Do it.
I was shown this movie. So when I was a kid, I went to things like I had to be like babysat, right?
Yeah.
And I went to like day camp, a few years.
Were you babysat by the counselors?
No, kind of. Yeah, I would say my parents.
Supervision.
tipped me off.
Yeah, I was a camp counselor for 5 years, and you are basically just a glorified
Yeah.
babysitter. You
If
get
you fuck
bow
up
and
your
arrow and
kids,
canoe.
your parents are gonna fuck you up, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the thing I noticed when I was a kid about this, lots of sleepovers. The sleepovers was the main
Yeah.
one. Well, this was one of those movies. I've talked about these kinds of movies before, where if we didn't know what to rent, we were just this was one of the ones because we
Hmm.
fucking loved it as a kid. I remember loving this movie. I remember when you start hitting those years where people are like, "What are your favorite movies?" You know, like when
Yeah.
you start like socializing, like
Hmm.
Breakfast Club, Groundhog
Oh yeah.
Day, you know, the easy one. And this one always came up, and it's funny to me watching it now in my mid 30s, realizing how inappropriate for kids this is, not because there's swearing or nudity or sex, any of that kind of stuff, or violence, but because it teaches you that it's okay to manipulate, gaslight, stalk. It
Yeah.
teaches you it's okay if you have the ability to, uh, you know, use the ability to repeat the same day over and over, to cherry pick little bits from somebody's life and use it. If I went on this is what I kept thinking about. If I went on social media, if I was trying to court somebody who was in the public eye, and I went on
Ooh.
social media or Google and I cherry picked little things like, you know, their favorite book, you know, where they grew up, you know, these kinds of things, and I
Yeah.
regurgitated it to them like out of complete left field, like he does to Rita. He's known Rita for all of a day, and he thinks that she's like, you know, he's already looking at her like she's a piece of meat. He shows that he tries doing that with the one hot girl in town. He tries to do that to her, cherry pick, and eventually just sleeps with her and says all kinds of lies. And then he does that to Rita, and through that figures out that he's in love with her. But really, there's two women to choose from in this town. One of them is like kind of the ditzy blonde archetype, and one of them is like has a little bit of she's got a little bit
I
of
think the
complexity.
implication is that he did this to a bunch of different women, and it worked.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work on Rita, I think is the
Right.
point.
Right. Which we'll get into as we talk about this. I just wanted to say that this might have actually taught the wrong things to certain people who saw this movie when they were young.
Yeah.
I don't think this movie is intended for children. It's intended for people who are cognizantly able to make these decisions and see how he's being a shitty person.
Right.
But I just have all my friends. This movie was just we were plopped down, rainy days in school, fucking day camp, fucking being babysat. You know, I had seen this movie probably 30 times as a like from when it came out
Yeah,
until
I think
you
that
know.
it's kind of a byproduct of our parent. I assume we're all more or less around the same age, give or take a few years, which would indicate that our parents are probably of similar age as well. Our parents were teenagers when Bill Murray was hitting like the height of his popularity amongst them. So in their mind, they're like, "Oh, Bill Murray is a kid-friendly person because all these like raunchy movies that I watched as a teenager, I think are hilarious. So he's going to continue making these types of movies. They're good for my kid to watch. I'll show my kids this movie."
Another good example of a Bill Murray movie that was constantly shown to me as a kid that I don't think is for kids, but because of similar implications, is What About Bob? And What About
Yeah.
Bob?
Me
Bill Murray
too.
plays like a like stop like a borderline that you can change the movie to. It's one of those movies where you can change the movie to the trailer and make it like a serial killery,
Yeah.
stalkery horror movie.
You like if you edit it the right way.
Yeah. So, but the thing about that movie that always stuck out is there's so much swearing in it because he does a thing where he's like got Tourette's in it. And I remember as a kid, I vividly remember sitting in like an auditorium. It was raining outside, a bunch of kids, and they were showing us What About Bob. And I looked at the camp counselors, and they're all looking at each other like, "Do we turn this off?"
This is not a kids movie.
This is not a kids movie. But
This
that's
is
the thing.
nothing like Ghostbusters.
That's the thing about that era, I guess. This is 1993 is right around the end of the, you know, PG, just a G rating, a PG rating, and an A rating, and then an R rating. There are only four ratings. Towards the end of the 90s, of course, they split it up into smaller age groups. You know, so there's like PG and PG-13 were separate things. 14A and R were sort of, you know, their own thing.
XXX.
Triple X, of course, and NC-17 was basically what unrated is now. But that's what I wanted to say as my connection to this movie, because I know the movie backwards and forward. It's one of those movies where I know the dialogue. I know what scene is next. And
you must have relived it several times.
Hey,
oh my gosh!
And that's just it.
Whoa.
And for my favorite
I think your take on the movie is very indicative of today's mindset in terms of like how we treat each other, and I think it's a completely fair take. I think that that's not necessarily what the filmmakers were going for,
Right.
but
No.
also I completely agree. I was uncomfortable during the entirety of his like evil phase, where he was just doing what he wanted, like abusing this ability to get carnal desires, like literally like gluttonous.
It takes him 3 days
Yeah.
to go on a crime spree.
No,
Well, we don't
the
know
third
that. We don't
the
know
third
that.
day is when he gets into a high speed chase. Yes,
The
that is.
third
But
day
he's
we're
also
shown.
drunk.
The third day we're shown.
I think
And the
it's
fourth
implied
day
that
we're
is the third
shown,
day.
and then after the fourth day is when it could be any time. Just before
also,
we move
real
into
quick, is my audio coming up on Zoom? Just right quick.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Just before we move into the actual movie, this is cliche. It is my wedding day that I would live over and over, but not for the reason you would think. I do love my wife
I
very
was
much.
there for that.
But the reason why I want to relive my wedding day is because a couple reasons. I didn't get adequate time with all of the guests. It was sort of a de facto family reunion. So I'd like to live the day over to have different moments with all the guests.
That sounds
Additionally, we had very nice cheesecakes made by Halifax's very own cheesecake wizard,
I remember.
which I got.
There's a cheese wizard there. Holy
Which I got exactly one bite of.
Oh.
I didn't even get a whole slice.
Well, that's
because
the saying,
I was
right?
walking
Your wedding
around.
day goes by so fast you won't even get to eat your own cake.
And that happened to me. And that's a cliche. It's filled with cliche. But the thing is like, if I had infinite time to relive that day, I would totally just fucking beeline it for the cake one day and eat all of the cake.
Just jump into it.
Yeah.
Actually, I changed my answer. I would change it to your wedding day as well.
My wedding day. You were both there, right? Kaylin, you were there, right?
I was there, yeah.
Yeah, we were all there. We were all
Steve,
partying
I'm sorry
it up.
if I missed you.
I'm sure we met, but I don't really remember.
It wasn't
because
it
there was
wasn't
so many
that
new people. Like I came to Halifax for a week, and I met all these people, and we were pretty much drunk the whole time. So I don't really remember anybody.
And me and
except for Jason
Steve weren't even friends the way we're friends now yet.
Yeah, I was invited
started,
as a +1 to that wedding.
Yeah. Ooh.
I don't even think we worked together yet at that point.
No, yeah, that was. I think we became friends slightly after the wedding, and then you got the job with the Escape Games, and then that's where we became like pretty good friends.
Nice. That sounds like.
And now we're best pals.
Now we're best buds. We played video games and we do a podcast with our other pal, Kaylin.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have a better answer by the end of this episode, but I don't like my answer anymore.
Your answer was fine. It was a good night. In fact, I was like, what are party nights we've had together? That would be a good example. Okay, so I'm going to do the fastest plot synopsis of this movie because it's a very thin plot. A lot of the movie takes place within the the Home Alone of it all, as I call it. Takes place right away after the first day, but it's most of the movie. So Phil is a weatherman who's sent to Punxsutawney for the 4th year in a row. That right there, I noticed, was a little bit of a foreshadowing for what's to come. Because he was his 4th year in a row going to Punxsutawney to cover the Punxsutawney Phil Groundhog Day ceremony. So he gets there.
This delivery, the big blue thing. Oh, there's going to be this big blue thing here.
So he gets there. He does the thing. He goes to the thing. He's kind of like begrudgingly doing it. He's talking about how he's a celebrity. Earlier in the movie, he talks about how there's a blizzard coming, but it's going to a different town. Blizzard's actually now coming to this town. They try to leave the town. They get stuck there, much to his chagrin. He wants to. Hey, is that A-Man or whatever he's called making a special appearance on the podcast today? That's a shout out to Kaylin's other show. Check it out if you haven't, because it's pretty funny, actually. I've watched a bunch of it. That's not part of the plot line of this movie, however. So anyway, they get stuck in town, and Bill Murray, or Phil, stays at a inn, and then he falls asleep. He wakes up to "You Got Me, Babe" by Sonny and Cher, and lives this day. He goes and does the thing. Wait. Oh
Did
yeah,
you just mess
no.
yourself up?
He goes and does the thing. Then he goes to bed and wakes up, and then he hears the song again, and then he relives the day, and then it turns out he's reliving the day forever. So then fast forward a bit. After he's like tried everything to be the worst person possible, steal money, you know, just be a curmudgeon. He starts trying to, you know, sleep with people, and then he tries to sleep with his producer, who's there with him, who's, you know, pretty delightful, played by Andie MacDowell. And she's like, no way. So then he starts doing what I said at the top of the show, where he starts cherry picking bits and using little bits from each day that he lives to relive this day, this day with her, and learns everything about her. And then he can't steal the deal still. So then he gets real depressed and starts trying to kill himself for days and days in a row. I have a question for you guys. So I remember the stealing Punxsutawney Phil and driving off a cliff. Also, high speed chase and explosion. This is a movie. I remember that. Suey. I remember him doing the thing with the toaster. He gets in the top of the toaster. I have a distinct memory that was not in this version of him walking off the top of a building. Did I make that up?
The clock tower. Did you not see him jump off the clock tower?
It wasn't in my.
Whatever it was.
Yeah, it was in mine as well.
Did you watch it on Crave?
No, I own this movie.
Did you
yeah,
say
you guys.
Did you say
it wasn't. I don't think it was in the Crave version because I was watching that part and I was like,
Steve, did you say it was or wasn't?
It was, yeah. I also have a distinct. Yeah, that is a very cinematic moment. It is visually striking, and I remember it quite clearly from childhood. And I was waiting for it because I haven't seen this movie in years. And I was like, oh yeah.
I was waiting for it too. I'm gonna go back and check it out after this. I'm gonna
Crave?
go. But I wonder if Crave cut that out.
Us, then.
Yay,
Our
Crave!
first ever movie podcast to be on a streaming platform, I suppose. Anyway,
I'd watch that.
He ends up having. We're not going to be the one. He ends
Don't
up having.
say that. Come on now. Come on.
He ends up having an epiphany when he finally has like a really good day with her after he just starts like doing whatever in his dates with her, and then he's like he has a really good night with her where he just like fuck it, I'm gonna tell her what's going on. And he has this big scene where he's going around the diner and he's like, this person is this, like this person's from here and this person likes this, and they're all like yeah, and she's like, how did you know that? And he's like, because I'm a god, I'm immortal, and I'm reliving the same day over and over.
God, but
yeah. So she's kind of like, oh, well, I have this like feeling, right? I can kind of feel it, you know, and that's where I'm like, oh, this is falling apart for me. And then they go back to his place, and it's not sleazy this time, and she, you know, they kind of fall asleep together, and then, you know, he has the epiphany that maybe what's meant to be happening here is I have to do good in order to get out of this loop.
Well, it's kind of her that. Like she says, maybe this isn't a curse. Maybe think of all the things you could do, and it kind of like pushes him in the direction of like I think he says, you're such an upbeat lady, and it's like, you know, like she's right. I should maybe try just doing some good stuff, and maybe it'll make me feel good. I don't think he thinks it's gonna break the loop. I think he just realizes like I've been thinking of this as a curse, and using it for like very base desires.
Selfish. The theme of this movie is basically selfishness versus selflessness, right? Or one of the themes.
So I'm almost done. Basically, he does a bunch of good stuff. Then there's the scene with the homeless man, which is very gut wrenching, and it's kind of like you see him have this is all very futile. Can't save everybody. So then one of his days he hears somebody playing piano, and he decides to learn the piano. And then it just kind of like goes to the end from there, you know. It's like he goes around saving people, like in that movie Choke. And it's not a sex thing like it is in the movie Choke. Have you guys seen that from the writer?
No, I've read the book. but I have not seen it.
Oh, isn't that a Fight Club? Same guy as Fight Club?
Yeah, it's a great movie. It's got what's his face, Sam Rockwell. Anyway,
Nice.
he goes around saving people, and then everybody around town like knows him. They're calling him Dr. Phil. Which wait, weird.
Yeah.
So anyway,
They call him Dr. Connors, which is also weird.
Which is also great.
Yeah, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. So we get a moment where he's playing the piano and she walks in and he switches the song and plays the song they learned for her, and then then there's like a human auction, one of those bachelor auction situations, a human auction, popular in the 1800s.
No.
And then so basically the girls of the town are betting on him to take him on a date, and Andie MacDowell's like, Rita, what a fucking 90s name.
Rita,
Yeah.
It's like, $341.50 or whatever, and they, and then
89,
they kiss each other. Or whatever.
Which is like, I wrote down, is that all the money she has? Because it looks like she got a checkbook.
It was a checkbook, yeah.
Yeah, and like
it's like her whole savings.
She's a producer on this station, and Bill Murray's character, the best scene in the movie, in my opinion, is when he goes to get the piano lesson, and he's like, "Well, I need to learn piano today. I've got $1,000," and you see the door close, and then the teacher push the girl out the door while you can hear him
it's funny, and like also
comedy.
That like the montage of him doing good things is like this specific song that's playing, a piano song that's playing, and it plays right up until the moment where like they go inside and close the door and the music abruptly stops, and
nice.
then it switches to the music. Yeah, it's very good editing. Also, my favorite line in the movie, which is like, "You say this is your first lesson?" And he's like, "Well, my father was a piano mover, so." So funny.
So the movie kind of just has a romantic comedy ending where it's a happy ending, but it leaves me, as somebody that lives in a modern day 2022, post Kevin Smith movies, post Quentin Tarantino movies, where a lot of the dialogue is them pulling apart famous movies. I want to pull this fucker apart, and we have about 40 minutes to pull this motherfucker apart.
Scalpel.
Because
I said scalpel. Thank you. Actually, I do. I
think that works.
Yeah, it's right here.
What if I do this? Here.
It's a blade.
Okay, so you guys, let's talk. Let's talk about this. I gotta plug my phone in because I didn't plan very well. I was looking at TikToks until 8:30. I was 16%.
One of our recurring segments is movie title shout out. 2 minutes and 3 seconds, I believe it was. Almost off the get-go.
Well, that is, I mean, yeah, for a movie that takes place on Groundhog Day, it would be so weird if they didn't say the name Groundhog Day like within the first 5 minutes, and then a million times throughout.
There were, a few drops.
So I know, Jason, that you did a pretty hefty analysis of the movie already, and I don't disagree with anything that you said. I think it is uncomfortable to watch, but I was uncomfortable up until the moment that I wasn't uncomfortable anymore, and I'm like, okay, at least they're addressing the things that I find so distasteful about this movie and the character. And if anybody, there are people that do these types of things in real life, like they'll do sort of like mild stalking to try and figure out what people like. But in a movie, it's difficult to present somebody like that without it coming off as creepy. And I know that I think the intention was supposed to be like, oh, isn't that funny? Like he's just like siphoning information from them, and then it's like they're getting their mind erased, and then he can use that to his advantage later. Comical. It's played for comedy, and it wasn't really comedic to me in the same way. It was more funny that I was like, wow, I can't believe that they did this. This is fucking gross.
It's a Harold Ramis movie. It's a light comedy. it's all at the time. I'm sure there were much
Is it not
dumber
fair to say
concepts.
though? There's a bit of there's a bit of realisticness to it or whatever, where it's like, okay, if I had this power, what would I do, kind of thing. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not saying
and
it's
I know
good.
that
I'm not, you know what I mean, condoning it,
no, for sure.
right? But
If you
like,
could live,
the base, like a base urge of a guy, or like, just whatever, right? Like, there is that dark side of people, right? And like you said, he does come around and redeem himself after. So, do you guys have an idea, like how long? There's been numbers thrown around.
How long has been
Uh,
trapped in the loop?
well,
right.
they've addressed. I was about to mention this.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So the original version of the script was supposed to be 10,000 years, and
Yeah.
in
Right.
terms of the actuality of it, it's sort of like hyperbolically about 10 years. I
What do
mean,
you
it doesn't really.
mean by hyperbolically 10 years?
He says it hyperbolically in the movie, as in like he's just saying it to basically give you a number, but like there's no real meaning to it.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
hyperbolically would be like an exaggeration. I think it's more than 10 years, less than 10,000 years.
Yeah, so
It feels
which is
like
a huge gap.
if you think,
I'd be a crazy person after 10,000 years, I think.
well, he does go through that crazy period, right?
Yeah, he kills himself a bunch of times.
That's true. Maybe,
Kills himself a bunch of times.
and then he gets past that hump, and it's even
Yeah.
more than 10,000 years.
If I had this power, I would probably have a similar trajectory where I just try to do some.
That's the other thing
shit.
is like there's a very dark version of the script where they address things like murder and torture and like things that if you had the ability to live life over and over and over again without any consequence whatsoever, would a normal person go absolutely insane and start doing stuff just to see if they could, or what it's like.
Would there be a punishment to it? Or...
Obviously, that's a very different movie.
Right.
They also
you know what
never.
I want to see? Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say they never show him try. I think Palm Springs. Sorry if this is a spoiler for the rest of the month, but I think in Palm Springs they actually address this, but he doesn't ever try to just get on the road and drive and be driving or be doing something. The closest we get is him like being awake at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and then it flicking over to 6, and then him waking.
Oh, like what happens at like if he stays awake the whole time? You mean?
Like what happens?
I'm sure that he probably tried that at some point in the movie. It's probably just boring. Like they probably did film that and removed it because it's not interesting.
Okay.
He probably wakes up at 6 the next morning with a terrible sleep because he didn't go to bed.
The way I
That's
see it
another thing, right?
The way I see it is he always wakes up with the exact same amount of rest that he had. Okay. Like it's like the time is restarting right at that moment.
So he doesn't experience hangovers?
Yeah, so you can get like
oh yeah, that is true.
Wasted.
That's true. You're right. So it would be it's just it's exact reset and starting fresh. Also, you know what I do want to see though? I want to see the original script of this movie made into a movie where it starts off where he's already mastered the day. Where as the viewer, he's doing these things. You're like, how the hell is he doing these things? And
February 3rd, 1993 becomes his new loop, but he knows everything.
I was reading a little bit about the movie, like the process in which it was made, and that is how the original script was written. Is that he already knew, he was already in the loop, so you didn't really understand
we're starting like halfway, kind of. Yeah,
so he already has all these sort of like weird moments where he's able to avoid the puddle or like walk through traffic without any cars hitting him or whatever.
Do you know where that feels? There feels like there's remnants of that in the movie we watched in certain moments where he can immediately he has days where he can immediately have everybody kind of having him as the main character. Where he's sitting eating popcorn and doing the Jeopardy thing, just saying Jeopardy. Everybody treating him like the main character, like he's in the room and everybody's like in awe. And the other one that really stuck out to me was...
He did that day at least 5 days. He did that
at least.
Yeah.
The other one that stuck out to me was like they just show him at the end of mastering ice sculpting.
Yeah.
And that feels like something that he would have already had to have like a base level in that what you're saying. We jump into the story halfway through. He's
Right,
already in the
right.
loop. That just stuck. Those two moments stick out to me for some reason. And with that knowledge, I actually feel like those could have been holdovers from that.
Jason's
There is
Theory
one
Corner.
thing I've read.
What?
There's one thing
I
I've
said
read.
Jason's Theory Corner.
I think I've gone through all my theories already without. I think I've gone through all my theories already without actually going into a corner, because nobody puts Jason in a corner.
I have a dunce cap.
You would have a dunce.
You
cap.
would have a.
So I was reading this thing online. It was saying that the shown / mentioned added up to like 42 or something, which is like the length of until it gets to spring or whatever.
I think
But
that,
then
yeah, I
I
was
was-
reading about that too, and there's 38 days that they show either fragments of or to completion or beginning, like until.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then when I was watching it, I think it might have been the first date that goes well with Rita, where they're chucking the cards into the hat. It's like, oh, how'd you get so good or something like that? He's like, oh, only 6 months or something like that.
Yeah. She said it would take me a year to master this, and he said no, 6 months with intent, 4 hours a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, like I hesitate to call that one a date. I feel like that is just he reveals himself who he is, that he has this ability, and she immediately finds it interesting. And rather than try to go on a date, which he's already done like a million times with her, he's just like, let's just hang out, and he just hangs out with her
He's
for the
had
day.
a little experiment.
And
Yeah.
and I think that's also meant to be the moment where he's no longer lusting after her. He realizes that he's in love with her, and he's now the depression that he has of being trapped has now evolved to this acceptance. And the movie definitely goes through the 5 stages of death or dying very clearly throughout the movie. And at that point, that's like his journey into acceptance, and he decides I should make the best out of this, and he doesn't come to that conclusion himself. He comes to it after realizing, like, you know what, I can never be with this person. I have to be okay with that. I'm just going to try and make everybody else's life around me better. And he does.
Did you notice the kid with the broken leg in the hospital in the background?
No.
No.
What about him? He had 2 broken
Well, there's
legs.
there's a scene when he's at the hospital, and in the background there's a kid with
Oh,
a
is it the
broken
kid
leg.
that falls from the tree?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
The next-
cool. I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
No, that's a good little detail.
There were, exactly. A few little
I have a
things in the
question.
background planted.
I have a question for you guys. Do you guys think
That Michael Shannon was
That-
hot when he was young? Yeah. And now he's
Wait.
scary.
was Michael Shannon in this?
Yeah, he's
Did
like
he
the
do
young
his
guy
wife?
who's getting married. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
fuck! I was looking at that
WrestleMania,
couple.
The WrestleMania.
I was looking
Yo,
at
do you
that
think
couple
Bill
going.
hooked up with his wife?
That girl, yeah, I do. That girl looks familiar, but I didn't look at the guy. Anyway, my question is do you think that Andie MacDowell and Bill Murray had good on-screen chemistry? Because I did not. And welcome to Jason's Theory Corner. It's
Okay.
well known that Harold Ramis and Bill Murray didn't like each other, but Bill Murray was
They
cold.
stopped speaking for years after the film. Of this
Basically after this movie, because Bill Murray was cold.
I can still hear you.
And it was theorized by Harold Ramis that the reason why Bill Murray was so cold and distant to Harold Ramis, causing their fallout, was because of the fact that because of Ghostbusters, it pigeonholed Bill Murray into having to play supernatural funniness,
Right.
which happens with this movie, happens with Scrooge, Ghostbusters 1 and 2. All great examples of it. And while we've only seen him in these 4 supernatural comedies, you can only imagine the amount of nonsense his agent came to him with during this era.
True.
You know what I mean?
True.
You know, like maybe he was supposed to be Michael in the movie Michael, starring John Travolta.
That angel? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Going
So
up to the spirit in the sky.
I don't think had Iris in it by the Goo Goo Dolls. I don't think that they necessarily had bad on-screen chemistry, but I think that Bill Murray was Peter Venkmaning Ghostbuster 2ing the movie, even though he's pretty good in this. But Andie MacDowell specifically seemed over it. And they had some moments that were pretty, like, movies are filmed out of order, and there were some moments that were pretty good. The one little moment where he does the little chipmunk teeth, and he's like, "Oh, Galen, you dropped from the oh, Steve dropped from the Insta."
Oh no, what's happening?
Okay,
no,
so
if you can hear it, what he waved his hand, but I don't know what he said.
So my theory corner is that there was some trouble on set, and Andie MacDowell got frustrated with Bill Murray based on Bill Murray not wanting to do that. Boom. So what do you think, Kayla? Do you think that these guys had good on-screen chemistry?
Well, now that you mention it, like, for the most part, like, she's just kind of fed up with him the whole time. Like, there's little moments, like, when he kind of gets a decent, not decent, he gets up to, like, when they do the snowman thing, up to, like, the first time they do it, like, he did the first things, like, a few times, and, like, he was just being a sleazeball trying to figure out how to get in the pants or whatever, right? And then they get to that moment, and there is a bit of a genuine connection, like a little, like, planting a seed, like an inkling of, like, the wholesomeness that's there, as opposed to just, like, the base urges that are there. And then he tries to chase that again, and he forces it, right? Like, he does the thing where he falls, like, into the snow with her, but, like, in a very much more forced way, and trying to make certain things happen, as opposed to when it was just happening naturally, right?
When he's laughing maniacally, that's we were earlier when we were talking about how, like, he's kind of been driven nuts because he's been there for so long. This is the era when I think that starts happening. After he has the one genuinely good date where he almost seals the deal, but he's still a sleazeball, and he can't seal the deal because he can kind of still see through it. Because he's like, I love you.
Again. No,
and
he's like stopped being a sleazeball a little bit, but then he's about to, exactly, and then he tries, exactly.
Okay. Was that all you had to say about it?
I forgot what we were talking about, to be honest.
Fucking stoner.
This is what happens when you smoke weed like 5 times throughout the episode. Sorry, what was the question? I got a phone call there. I was trying to.
No
That's
worries.
what it was. I got distracted by Steve.
Kaylin had a good
chemistry. No, sorry, on-screen chemistry.
Yeah. Oh yes. So, I don't know. I don't think that what's her name?
Andie MacDowell.
Yeah. I have never considered her to be that great of an actor.
No. Nope.
I mean, I don't think she's horrible. I think she's very beautiful, and I think that she
has some wholesome moments.
She also has a wholesome quality to her that I think is beneficial to movies of this era, and I think that she was typecast with that.
She screams typecast. She screams 90s. She screams typecast, and I can't think of Andie MacDowell without thinking of the movie Michael.
I can't think of her without thinking of the movie Muppets in Space. Anyway, I don't think she's a bad actor. Like, this is not me being like, ugh, get out of here. I think she's fine. I just don't think that she is. I don't think she's amazing, and I think that Bill Murray has a very natural presence on screen, whereas when she's acting, she feels very actory. Like it's like when she does the money thing at the end, and 38 cents. I'm like, geez, what? Yeah. Get back to the shampoo commercials over here. But yeah, so in terms of their chemistry, I think the music, the lighting, and the cinematography of the moments where there is a connection between them are almost wholly responsible for any kind of emotion that I'm having within it. I don't necessarily think it's either of them doing anything special to make me feel like they are meant to be together. And yeah, so I mean, to answer your question,
part of
movie
my
making, man. If you
part
can,
of my
you can craft it via other things.
it's true. Part of my theory also comes from the fact that Bill Murray looks like a potato man. So to have him in a role where he's supposed to be like the leading man love interest just makes me think of Judd Apatow movies and like the television trope where it's like the big fat ugly guy with Leah Remini as his wife, or Peter Griffin with Lois as his wife, which is like it's been a TV trope for as long as TV's had sitcoms,
Yes.
and movies are no different. And I don't, I buy Bill Murray as his character in Scrooge, which is a very similar character, and I buy Peter Venkman being able to like wisecrack his way into getting with Sigourney Weaver.
He's also a doctor in that movie, which adds like another layer of like professionalism and like you're
But
naturally as people who are not doctors, you usually when you meet someone who's a doctor, you're like, oh, this person's probably very smart if they're a
in this
doctor.
movie, he's like a local weatherman.
Yeah, not a very impressive. If somebody said they were a local weatherman to me, I'd be like, oh, that's cool, but I wouldn't be like hot.
But there's more to it than that. Local weathermen are usually women, and they're usually hot women.
How do you explain Cindy Day?
Or square jaw man. Weathermen are traditionally beautiful men, but I think it's also a product of the 90s and the 80s where men in those kinds of power roles were fucking potato men. We have it good.
I mean, yeah, but like the weathermen exist as well, but they are also generally usually pretty handsome. Like they're not schlubby dudes. And it is a very weird thing that we've all just collectively turned our back on in society. Is like, yeah, weather people have to be hot. That's just like nobody wants to hear about the weather. You got to have a hot person tell you.
Have you seen Yannick Garcia?
I don't know who that is.
I'm going to say no.
I think she's a California.
Toronto?
The weatherman here, we don't really have a weatherman. We have the Weather Channel. And the guy who played
I don't know who
Cody's
the weather
friend
information
on
is for.
Bodies
it's on
is
our
on
phone.
that.
All of our phones have an app that tell us what the weather is. We don't.
I'm looking at 3 computers right now. I am looking at 3 computers.
Yeah. There's a little tab at the bottom of my screen that tells me what temperature it is right now inside.
Kaylin, you don't need a weatherman.
It's mostly cloudy.
Kaylin has a question. Let's go to Kaylin's question corner.
Today.
Nope.
Oh no. But I have a question. It's a Q. It starts with a Q. What starts with a Q? We found out. Anyway. Okay, so I watched the movie, then I watched it again with the commentary, and then I watched it this morning just for a little refresh or whatever, right?
Who does the commentary for it?
What?
Who does the commentary for it?
Harold Ramis. And
I could listen to that man talk all day. He's got a beautiful voice.
He felt the need to tell the listener or viewer that he took that coat, Bill Murray's coat. I forget what kind of coat it was. It was some sort of fancy, whatever name.
Oh, like the big coat that he's wearing, like
the overcoat.
Yeah.
But then I watched it for the third time. On the third time, when he first wakes up, and she's like, "Oh, how are you feeling?" or whatever, or it's like she's like, "Did you sleep well?" And he's like, "I slept alone."
Okay. Did you blow your own mind?
I thought I blew your mind.
No, sorry. Mind unblown.
I was distracted. I don't know what I was distracted by, but I was distracted for like part of that.
Probably the 3 screens that you have.
No, I was looking in your eyes, but my brain, you know how Homer's brain is like a monkey? Yeah. You know Homer's brain is like a symbol monkey? If I kind of dissociate something. You might see my eye just kind of go like this and dissociate. I have a problem with dissociation.
That's cool. I'm down with that.
Is it not disassociation?
It's whatever. It's either dissociate or disassociation.
I wanted to look it up, but I'm not gonna. One thing that you could learn from this movie, Jason, is what a Clint Eastwood impression is. because he does a Clint Eastwood
Make my
impression
day.
in this movie. He says
I have
one
a question
adult and
about that as
one,
well.
2 adults, I guess.
Where do you guys get a chewing stick from, or whatever that thing is? Where
From
do you get that
outside,
chewing
go
stick?
grab a stick off of the ground.
I
I'm
think
pretty
that was
sure that
a
was a cigar.
I think it's a
cigarello.
I think it's a specific thing.
No,
It was a
that was a
cigar.
cigarello.
It's
No,
like a
I think
thin
there's.
cigar.
Well, sorry, I'm not disagreeing. It very well may be a cigarello or a cigar, but I think it might be a specific chewing stick, like not just some old stick off the ground, but like a specific thing that you almost like a really big toothpick.
Kaylin, you can chew a stick. You can do that, and that is a thing. But
Yeah. Or if you're
men who were cowboys in the desert loved tiny cigars.
and they would chew on
What
them.
about those
the
pieces
taste.
of grass with the things on the end?
That's rednecks.
Yeah, you're thinking of banjo on a deck in a bog.
You're thinking about a hill. You're
That
thinking
is
about a
what I'm
hillbilly
thinking,
kid
yes, exactly.
with a frog and overalls
With
and one
only
overall,
one strap, yeah.
one strap.
All right, let's talk more about the movie.
Hey, I'm the host here. Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
Let's
All
talk
right.
Rein it
more
in.
about the movie.
I'll talk about whatever I want on my episode, which I don't even know what my next episode is.
I think I'm the
So
next one.
I don't really have. I had this grand plan to write like an outline for whatever at least my episode is going to be. But I burned through the plot synopsis so fast that we're kind of just in no man's land, and we've had a couple of Jason's theory corners. Kaylin told us.
For you, I got
Yeah,
some facts
so
for you.
that's actually a good. I wanted to get to that because, and I did bring up I wanted to talk about Bill Murray and Harold Ramis' relationship, which I feel like I covered pretty well.
I heard a
Kaylin,
few things about it.
Kaylin, why don't you give us some facts? I'm gonna plug my computer in. Steve, just be cool, man. I didn't mean to say it like that. I meant to say it
She's
like.
always cool.
No, I meant to say it like, be cool, man. Is that better?
No,
it sounded
that's
like
not
you're
better.
telling me
No, do it again.
to stop interjecting.
No,
No, just tell
be-
him. Just tell him he is cool.
Well, here's
You're
a fact
cool.
for you. Did you know that Gobbler's Knob is a real place?
well, that's a
Yo!
thing.
Oral blowjobs? Did you guys
Yeah.
think of that too?
You're gonna get your dick
the,
sucked and
the
Gobbler's
term
Knob.
knob gobbler is literally just taking the two words and saying them in a different order. No, I was shocked to find that it is a real place. It is not where they go in the movie.
What?
It is a real place close by in the middle of the woods.
In Woodstock?
In Woodstock, yeah.
No,
And,
so when I was watching the movie, when they're in the, I can't remember exactly what scene it is. There's this, when he meets Ned. It's like, Phil, blah, blah, blah. So they're talking on the sidewalk in the background. So they're supposed to be in Punxsutawney or whatever it is, right? In the background, though, there's a store. It's Woodstock's Jewelry. I'm like, oh, man. You know, when what's that called? Not continuity. Kind of like continuity?
yeah, but
Yeah,
you could have a
that's
store
continuity.
called Woodstock's Jewelry. It sounds like it's owned by a guy named Woodstock.
Yeah, I mean, you could pass it off as that, but what it really is the jewelry within Woodstock.
Well, it was filmed in
Well,
Woodstock.
also, there's a Woodstock in every fucking city. Like
That's fair. It's like Springfield.
I don't
Yeah.
have a Woodstock.
Yeah, you
I
do.
have a Woodstock about
I have a
45
Woodstock.
minutes away from here.
There's a Woodstock. It might be New Brunswick.
Is it jewelry?
No, but there's a place in Eastern Canada called Woodstock.
Oh, area. No. But yeah, I agree with that. There's an area, but there's a store. So he's in Punxsutawney, but it's Woodstock's Jewelry. So it's a giveaway that he's in Woodstock, not because they filmed in Woodstock, is what I mean.
I'd like to do a quick show note. I've been calling it Punxsutawney this whole time. It's Punxsutawney.
That's what I said.
I know. I'd like to apologize for calling it Punxsutawney. There's a character on Orange is the New Black whose name is Punxsutawney, I think.
The irony is that character is also called Punxsutawney, and you're just saying it wrong both times.
That's better.
I'm
In the
going to my
corner.
power corner.
Your power, is that also your theory corner?
Yes.
You want me to get the hat? The hat.
Oh,
Hand me
God.
the dunce. Actually, you can keep the dunce cap there until you get
I'll save it for my episode. That requires a dunce hat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as much as there's a couple parts in this movie that I'm like, what's going on here? The homeless man, he keeps referring to him as father, pop, and dad, and it's very weird. And
really, I didn't notice that.
When he first sees, like, he gives him the money, and then later in that, I believe it's supposed to be the same day, he sees him holding his chest, and he says, "Hello, father. Let's get you somewhere warm." And then he tries to save him a couple of times, and then when he's giving him CPR, he says, "Come on, dad. Come on, pop. Breathe, pop." And he keeps calling him pop over and over again.
So maybe he's an asshole because of some father issues?
It could be, or it could be a thing where, like, this is where I'm like, what is going on here? They don't address it again later. He realizes he can't save this man. Sometimes people just get old and die. And that's his realization that he, as good as he can be, he cannot be good for everybody, and he can't make sure that everything's going to be okay. And I'm like, did his dad die and he wasn't there or something? Like, was he that kind of asshole where his dad was sick and dying in the hospital and he wasn't there to, like, say goodbye to his dad before he passed away? Or is it just like a weird little detail they added, just to, like, make you kind of realize that he has trauma that exists outside of this curse that he's reliving over and over again?
Could also be remnants of storyline that was taken from the script in a darker.
Maybe it's how like guys call younger guys son or whatever.
Yeah, like Phil's always wisecracking. He's the kind of character that gives people nicknames. Like he doesn't give anybody nicknames really, but he's that kind of character.
Yeah, he's a gross man. He is completely self-absorbed. He considers himself a celebrity, even though he's a local news broadcaster. Weather broadcaster.
Podcaster? Weather podcaster?
He's a weather podcaster. And the first day that he goes to do the reveal of the I almost called it a warthog, a groundhog. He says
Warthog Day, it's a Halo movie.
Rita, "How'd you sleep without me?" Poorly, I bet, or something along those lines, right? Yeah, and it's like,
toss and turn.
Like, imagine saying that to somebody in any scenario. I don't think it would ever, like, it just goes down wrong, you know?
Well, when she's like, "I shouldn't be doing this," and he's like, "Yeah, me either." Yeah. I was like, ugh, like, bro, like, I mean, like, no means no.
I think that they did need that stuff. As gross and as creepy and as weird as it all is, it's there to establish his character, and without that establishment, you don't register the change as much. And it is meant to seem like a very slow transition. And it feels like one. It doesn't feel like he went from being a normal asshole to being crazy to being just like this horrible monster to being a good guy. It feels like there is a natural order to how it all happens, and specific events are what trigger those changes, right? Even when he is doing good for everybody and the homeless man dies, you can see that there's like a gear going in his head, and it registers, for me at least. And that's one of the reasons that I still think this movie is, like, I don't think it's terrible. I think that there's a lot of terrible stuff about it, and I think that, like many things in pop culture, some people glorify the wrong things about it and idolize the wrong things about it. But I think for three intelligent people who realize that, like, this movie is a little more than a comedy. It is a dark comedy, and it is meant to be a character study of this man. And you're not supposed to idolize him in any way. He's supposed to be gross, and he's supposed to be a bad person. It's like Patrick Bateman and, like, the Joker, and, like, there's these people that exist that are human beings just like you and me who idolize these, like, horrifying characters.
Like the cast of It's Always Sunny,
and it just goes it goes right over people's heads. Like, they don't realize that they are glorifying the wrong parts of these characters,
because they're written well, and these shitty characters are written to be relatable, to appeal to a mass audience, and unfortunately part of that audience goes, "That's my idol." Todd Phillips' Joker, that's me, man. If society doesn't get me, man.
Yeah, anytime somebody says this character is so much like me, you're probably talking to a complete idiot, just so you guys know. If you ever hear somebody utter the words, this character is me, that person's probably stupid.
That character is just like a regular person living on Earth.
Yeah, it's like, no, you're nothing like this person, and probably for the best that you're not like Patrick Bateman.
He either kills people like horrifically or constantly imagines himself killing people horrifically.
He's also
well, that one's most safer. At
he's
least.
Also most definitely a closeted homosexual, and is like he's like lost his mind on every level, and like these people think that he's like an alpha or something, and it's like, no, he's not. He's so confused about his own sexuality,
just
even
like
his own gender and stuff, and it's like, you are missing the point of this movie, and you're like sticking on to the facts that he like hates women and is jacked and like has lots of sex instead of getting what the movie is meant to be about. Anyway, we're not talking about American Psycho.
Speaking of homosexuals, I like that they did a gay joke and didn't do Gay Panic. They did a gay joke, and
they did two. They did two gay jokes, and it was good. And it wasn't really a joke. I'm sure that there are people who probably slap their knees at that, and those are the people that, again, probably compare themselves
Nobody's
to.
Gay.
Yeah, those are the same people that probably identify with the Joker and Patrick Bateman. But yeah, it was just a fact, and it is kind of a shocking fact to learn about somebody if you don't know that. Not shocking as in like you're grasping at your pearls, but kind of like, oh, I didn't realize that. And it wasn't played for yucks. It was like, this guy paints toy soldiers and he's gay, and the guy's just like, I am. And like walks away, goes back to his job. Yeah, and it was nice. And then later that he does sort of a weird thing where he hugs Ned. But that was also like, Ned is a horrible character, right? Like,
Ned is my favorite. Like, I mean, yes.
Wait, are you going to tell me that you identify with Ned Ryerson? That character is me.
Out of this whole movie, his character is my favorite. If it were real life, I'd hate him. But the fact that I get to watch this from outside of the, like, within its universe, right? Like, I get to watch it. He's my favorite character, like my favorite out of this whole movie.
Oh yeah, he's definitely funny, and I like his character, but
he's iconic for this movie too. You can't have a conversation without talking about the evolution of, like, the second day he punches him in the face. The second day he's like, Ned, boom.
The second day he just pushes him. He doesn't punch him until later.
It's the third day. I think it's the third day, yeah.
On day 3, Phil chose violence, and he punched the guy in the face.
Or at least the third day that we see.
Well, yeah, and it's like, that's him going through, like, that first, that I guess, second step of death or whatever, where he's angry, yeah.
So, just to keep things kind of moving here, I do want to do one last discussion before we take her home. And I have
one thing to add too with after either some point as well, but yeah.
What were you going to say?
Well, when I was listening to the commentary, Harold Ramis made a comment about how does Superman ever have time to, like, do anything with Lois Lane? Like, there's always something, right? There's always something that could be fixed or saved.
Well, he dicks down so good that he only needs to give her, like, a second.
Well, I think the thing is, he stopped chasing her.
Let me get your coat for you.
Are you guys talking about my coat?
No, he's kicking me out for saying that Superman dicks down so good that Lois only needs a second. You're right. How does Superman get anything done? Let's talk about that during a Superman podcast, because right now I want to talk about time travel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Ooh,
just wait. But is this time travel?
Well, these are the things I want to bring up in this last segment.
Okay.
Do you guys have a theory? I've kind of come up with a theory, but I can't think of the moment when this starts happening to him. I think we talked about, was last week a movie where that's something, what was last week?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There was
A lot of the John Carpenter movies.
Mouth of Madness. Mouth of Madness.
Yeah.
When he gets into the book or whatever.
When does it start happening? In this, my theory is that they make a big to do about he's staying in this hotel that he always stays in when he comes here.
Right.
And they're like, no, you're going to stay at this bed and breakfast. And then he stays in the bed and breakfast. It starts happening. Is the bed and breakfast haunted with time travel ghosts?
Here's
oh my god!
Does he get bonked in the head? When he gets bonked in the head when he's at the payphone, does he die?
Is he dead and he's just reliving his last day? This is my theory. And I like that they don't have some stupid moment where like a telephone pole gets struck by lightning or some bullshit that makes it happen.
Total 80s bullshit thing.
Yeah, you don't need an explanation.
Perfect.
That's not the point.
Yeah.
But here's what I think: every day that's cut out of February, for 3 years, all those lost days are actually February 2nd that we're losing, and he's reliving all the lost days over and over and over again in the form of the one day.
Oh,
some sort of does this movie take place on a leap year? Did it come out in a leap year? I want to know if there's a leap year that has to do with it. But I just find
that sounds interesting.
It's not interesting. It's very stupid, but I just
I'll
like the idea.
Yeah, I'm poking holes in it a lot in my head right now, but I like
That's
it.
Just
bring up
my
your
stupid
phone calendar.
It's not a real theory.
Bring up your phone calendar and go to 93.
I need my phone for Instagram.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
I can just write in my computer, was 93 a leap year?
So
nope.
So my only problem with that is that 100% is based
but
off
1992 which means this movie was filmed on a leap year.
Nice.
True, but that means that 100% based off a Christian calendar, and we have no way of knowing what year it is right now, really.
Ooh, that's a good point.
I mean, we have a ballpark of a couple billion years.
65 million years ago, there were dinosaurs, and they had been around for a long time.
Yeah, let me bring up my dinosaur calendar.
But I wouldn't say there was like a year one for Earth. You can't really quantify a year one for a rock.
What are you counting from? Are you counting from
like the first amoeba
things being there, or when things are actually condensed and, like you said, it's amoeba, a cell, a bacteria?
Yeah, no. So time, other than I mean, in terms of like a calendar, time is a construct completely created by human beings.
And it's so random. The fact that it's 2022 and it's based off something
who
we
picked
can't
2000?
even.
Yeah,
we're so far away from it that we can't even wrap our head around.
What do you mean, Kaylin? What does that mean?
Never mind. I just realized it was Jesus.
Yeah, it's Jesus. It's the death of Jesus Christ, but we don't.
The birth of Jesus. I'm pretty sure we're counting from his birth. He died in the year 33.
Right. Okay. Well, allegedly. Who knows? The churches the libraries have been burned several times over.
See, now that is a huge loss.
I shouldn't have brought up my theory.
That Alexandria is a whole other thing, Kaylin. It's not.
I just like the idea of the fact that we every 4 years have an extra day to play with. We're like, here's an extra day.
That's because of measurement.
I know why it exists. I'm just saying the idea of it, that we every 4 years just have this extra day that we need in order to make the rest of our calendar make sense.
It's it's similar to the extra hour, but the extra hour is because of farmers.
But you get it back when you go back.
It's all antiquated.
There's no extra hour. You just move the hour.
My point. It's because
so that people can be in the sunlight longer.
The food pyramid is also
why don't they just wake up earlier? Why do we have to change the time?
Well,
wake up later?
It's antiquated nonsense. Okay.
My brain.
Clean slate. I got one more time travel question for you.
Whoa! You didn't give me your thing about the last one.
I did. I think that the bed and breakfast is a haunted time travel ghost.
Oh, right, yeah, right. Mind blown. Okay, yeah, mind blown. Yeah.
Wait, what was yours? Steve thinks. Steve.
I don't think that. I was just
Steve
saying
thinks it.
Words.
Steve thinks that it's New Year's, or it's a leap year.
Yeah, it's Chinese
That
New
Leap year.
Year's causes us to lose a day every
Right.
3 years.
Chinese New, it's like a completely different year on the Chinese calendar. It's a completely different year.
Yeah, it's a different culture.
And
that's
it's
what I'm
also
saying.
the year of the tiger. Let's all, or whatever.
Let's all take a brief moment of silence for the Tiger King, who is still in prison.
It was still in prison. And season
Oh,
2
snap.
I'm gonna get
Hey,
out
what
of here
about-
one of these days.
What about that other guy from Making a Murderer?
They tried to do a season. Anyway, hold on. See, this is what I say at the beginning of the show that sometimes we talk about TV. Kalen, where do you think this nightmare for Bill Murray starts? Have you thought about this?
Where does it start, or like what makes it start?
What causes him to start having this loop?
That
Cold shower. It's the cold shower.
Oh
Too
man,
cold.
why is there no hot water on that specific day? Today? No.
They never
That's
address
also
that either.
a very funny line in the movie, and they don't go back to it. He never finds out why there's no hot water.
He's like, of course not.
He's like,
he goes to bed
yeah.
Is there?
He
where's all
lit
the hot
that
water?
happens.
Today.
Not
That
today.
happens, and it just clicks to the next. He just walks down the hallway towards us, and it clicks to the next morning. Like that's the last. Maybe her saying that to him and him being confused is what causes the time loop to start happening. He's like,
I'll take
I
it.
can't figure this out. Why wouldn't they have cold water in this day?
That was the real secret. Is he just needed to figure out why there was no cold water, and then
Yeah.
it would have ended. It's like he just did a bunch of side quests first.
Okay. Here's one other thing I want you to think about. If you subscribe to the idea, oh my God.
Whoa. One sec. I didn't give you my answer.
Okay, I know you didn't, but you weren't giving. We were just kept talking about other things when we were trying to get you. Just give me your answer. Go.
Well, now I'm gonna say the shower because
Is that what you actually think?
That's what I said.
no.
Why'd you
We
stop
got
us? Like,
sidetracked
whoa. Let me just say the same thing that was just said. Hold on. What's your
Well,
answer?
no, but I felt like I was on not the pedestal, the chopping block.
No, you're on thin ice.
You're on the chopping block now. Let's go. I still have my scalpel.
Okay, so when does it? Well, obviously, no. Wait, it starts at 6. So 6 is the next day. So they get there. They do the thing. They can't leave, and so he fucking crashes there. Wakes up at wait.
God.
Damn it.
He has a cold shower, and then he goes into his room and goes to bed, and then he wakes up, and it's the next day, and it's the same thing.
They do address the time thing because there is that moment where she's like, it turns to midnight, and she goes, "Oh, you're still here." And he's like, "What? I never said it was midnight." She's like, "You knew I thought it was midnight because fucking it's always midnight." And like that's when the day legally
That's the
turns into
cliche.
a
It's the cliche. It's a trope.
Yeah,
No,
this
it's
is what I
legal.
was saying earlier, is like they probably filmed the scene where he waited to see when it would flip over, and it just probably ruined the flow of the movie, and they're like, we don't need this. The question doesn't matter anyway, so let's get rid
I'm
of
sure they'll be
the
talking about it on a
internet, that never
podcast in
happened.
25 years.
it. It'll be a leap year, I bet, too.
Not a leap year, but it's a Winter Olympics year. Okay, so Kalen, that's
You
your
said
final
you had
answer?
another time loop. You said
I do.
You said you had another time loop thing.
No, well, it's not a time loop thing. It's a nihilistic, existential, horrific quandary. So
This sounds
if you believe in like the infinite timelines, infinite dimensions sort of idea, every one
I'm down with that.
of these days splinters off into its own universe, its own dimension.
Yeah.
The implications of that were getting to me during the movie because of all the fucking great shit he does. What happened in the universe after he fucking walks off a building or horrifies a bed and breakfast of old folks by
Well, he's dead.
Putting it-
He'll be dead in that.
They'll be
right?
sad maybe for a day or two, and then they'll go back. They'll go back to see. Now that's the other thing about this movie, right? Like,
do you think
so
do
he's
you think
trapped in
a
a
course
day,
correct?
Literally,
Do you think it just goes
but we are kind of trapped in the same day. You know what I mean? Like metaphorically, right? Like we go through the same sort of pattern or whatever, right? When
well if you
there's
work
so
from
much
home,
more.
yeah.
there's so much more we could be contributing to life or whatever, right? Like, it's we're fortunate of not literally being trapped in the same day, but we're metaphorically just repeating the same thing over and over, right?
But also at the same time, we're not like repeating anything. It's one line. One line.
In regards to your timeline thing, yeah.
Sleeping is more of a metaphor for human beings. It's more of like we use it as a marker to change to the new day. But really, the reality of what's happening is you're still existing. Your brain is just shut in sleep mode, shut down.
Yeah,
you've turned off.
But at the same time, we're all experiencing different experiences. So who's to say that, like, this is another thing I was thinking about while watching this movie. While a lot of the things he experiences that he doesn't interact with are happening almost script, like an NPC in a video. But as he goes on and he's able to just like easily influence more and more people as he learns about them, he's changing their life. Like he's pulling them into his like gravitational flow or sphere. And I'm starting to really think about the like implications of this and how he's building as a being by knowing things about everybody. Because if somebody came up to me on the street, if somebody came up to me on the street and just started spouting things they knew about me, I would instantly believe anything that they like. If it was stuff that wasn't easily accessed online, I would immediately be like, this person is something special.
Yeah.
You know, that's why people cling to like mediums and psychics and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, if somebody could actually do that, that would be a pretty devastating power to have. And I think that there's a lot of philosophical discussion to be had around the implications of having the power of a looping day. You can't break the cycle,
he
though.
refers to himself as a god. Not
as a
god, but a god.
A god. So anyway, I wanted to get into that a little bit. There's another movie that I sat down and watched. I know I should be doing that for all of them, but I'm busy. I'm a busy guy.
We're all busy.
What?
Busy playing Final Fantasy 14, you creep.
Whatever. I'm creepy. Okay? I gotta level up my Black Mage, and then I gotta level up my fucking Reaper.
Listen, I'm not opposed to playing video games and watching things at the same time, but if you're trying to analyze it as the way we are doing in these discussions, it is important to observe.
I don't play video games, and I've never played a video game and watched a movie.
Oh, I do it all the dang time. Put the Office on and I play Death's Door. It's great.
I wanted to qualify that.
I got a question. Okay. Or no, I don't got a question. I got a tidbit. There was a version where Phil finally wakes up from it, like he's on to his next day, and Rita, he finds out, also was having a time loop.
Interesting. That's how
that would be crazy.
Because she almost like
sequel would be like a sequel without it actually being a sequel, because it would be its own movie.
Well, I saw a good meme today that was like, I have a good idea for a sequel for Groundhog Day. Just release the same movie in theaters. Call it the sequel.
It would be. I feel like you could remake this movie, but it probably. I mean, I guess they like The Edge of Tomorrow. Spoilers. That's what we're doing next week. Is literally the exact same concept, except it has the dumb explanation.
Explosions.
Oh, okay. I won't tell you then.
I don't know.
It is the same thing. It's a time loop, except there's big robot suits and monster alien things. It's pretty good. I liked it, but I'm excited to watch it.
Let him come.
I have seen Palm Springs, and that we'll get into. That movie's the reason why I've asked so many questions about this movie.
Yeah, and I think that what you were getting at earlier about philosophy and the implication of having this ability is probably something that they were interested to explore, but realized, this is going to be a comedy mostly, a rom-com basically. We cannot go too far into the direction of like, what would a real person do? Because the reality of that is one person being stuck in a in one place, one time, reliving the same experiences over and over and over again, while everybody else is
Everything.
oblivious to it, it has the potential to be something extremely dark.
You
I
can
don't
do
even know.
everything. It's limitless.
It's like it would be like playing a video game where you saved just before. You know when like I play Skyrim sometimes, I save and then I kill everyone in the town just to see if I can. And it's like, would I do that in real life? I don't know. I don't know if I would be physically capable of doing it or mentally capable of doing it. That implication that I could do it and have no consequences to that, and I would restart the next day and nobody would know I ever did it.
But that's different. That's different because
when you bending to me.
That's different though, because in this he retains all of his knowledge, but he doesn't retain like battle scars. He doesn't like. How far does that go?
I'm not talking about like if I'm strong enough to do it. I'm not physically. I mean, like, would I?
No. But in Skyrim,
okay, what?
Your character doesn't retain any of that. All that your character retains, assuming your character has your mind, you just know what happens if you try to kill everybody, which is kind of the same thing of what Phil experiences. But Phil can like level up. Phil could.
Well, I mean,
come out of the loop.
In Skyrim, if I do that, I now know there's a guard
before you fight a boss
there
or something, right?
Okay.
Like I'll retain the layout of where everybody is in the town and what they're doing when I start this killing spree.
That's a good point.
Yeah. It's exactly the same situation. It's like he saved at 6 a.m. and he'll always go back to that save point no matter what happens to him. Again, I like to think that I would not get to that point, but after 10,000 years of reliving the same day over and over again, there's a chance that I might be like, is there like
you get bored.
An axe store in this town? And like I would go full Sam Neill.
You want to see something new.
My biggest problem with it was that TV was already so limited in 1993 that you would know everything on every channel, and you would know what everybody's saying, kind of like what he was doing with Jeopardy.
Right.
And it was so there was only fucking 10 channels in 1993. If they were in,
I mean, maybe
Punxsutawney, what's the place called?
Oh, it's called Punxsutawney.
Punxsutawney. Here in Punxsutawney, they probably had 3 channels. So anyway, we went into time travel discussion for 15 minutes longer than but I knew it was going to happen. But I wanted to get to it before we jumped out of here.
I also want to make it clear that if I was stuck in a time loop, I really do believe that I am too emotionally and physically empathic towards other people to think that I would be capable of doing that. Because I can't even watch somebody fall off a ladder without being like, oh God, let alone go on a killing spree.
I don't know about killing spree, but who knows? 10,000 years is a long time.
It is.
It
It gives you such a crick in the neck. That's from the movie Aladdin.
Let's hit up some final thoughts and go do other things now. I wanted to keep it nice and tight, but obviously I let it go. You know?
No, I
think
we're almost at an hour. I think
we're like in an hour and 25 minutes or so. We're on par for our regular episode. I want to end it. I want to end the discussion where we're ending it because we're gonna have lots of time to talk about time travel shit and time loop stuff. So if we blow our loads on this, then there's not gonna be anything to talk about in later episodes. So
yeah, don't blow your load.
Don't blow your load, Steve. Why don't you give us your final thoughts and come up with some sort of rating? Maybe you just recommend it this week. Who knows?
I'll give this 71 time loops out of a potential 100 time loops. That's my rating. I did still enjoy this movie. I didn't get nearly as frustrated with it as it seems to have you, Jason. But part of that is nostalgia. Part of that is a deep enjoyment of Bill Murray's performances and everything that he's in. And there's also a nostalgic value to it for me in terms of it just has that real sweaty 90s aesthetic. The cars, the clothes, the music, how every scene sort of has like a jingle going on in the background. That's very 90s in my mind. The song that he plays at the end on the keyboard with the guitar, like the electric guitar, it sounds almost like an intro riff to like a 90s sitcom. It's very
What, that
90s.
weatherman song?
I don't know if it was a weatherman. When he learns piano and plays at the auction.
Yeah.
I do enjoy the development of his character. I like that it goes through very clear stages of him dealing with this, similar to the stages of death, as we mentioned earlier. I also like that they addressed the things that I was so uncomfortable with when I went in. And I remembered that they were in the movie, but I didn't realize how uncomfortable I was going to be, as you said, Jason, with like the advent of social media. If somebody was to do that, unless they were a very charming person and was upfront about it and said like, oh, I read on your profile that you enjoy this, I also enjoy it. I think that would be an appropriate way to go about it. Some people might still find that creepy, but if you were just like seeding in details of stuff that they like without their knowledge that you had been essentially digitally stalking them, it would be very bad. And he is, at that point in the movie, a disgusting monster man who's just servicing his base desires, his most carnal instincts as a gross guy. And I like that they address that and they make him realize that that's not going to work on everybody. It might work on a few dummies here and there, but when you're trying it on everybody, it's not going to work on everybody. And even though you have all of this prior knowledge and experience, that one person will just have a feeling that something's wrong with you. And it took him going through all of that, experiencing it over and over again, to then realize that this is an impossible task. And it's not even that he changed his tactics, it's that he abandoned all tactility and just decided to be himself and accepting of it all. And I really did enjoy the sort of ending montage of this movie where he is a better person and he's no longer doing it for himself. He's just doing it because he wants to see the area that he can influence to be bettered. And even the resolution of the movie, which is, I believe, meant to be that she is seeing him and no longer is he just in love with her, but she has found a way to fall in love with him as well. And they're meant to be together at that point in a very cinematic and like literary way. Like it's, the things like that don't happen in real life, obviously, but within the context of the story, these two people are now meant to be together, and that's what breaks the curse or the loop. At first I was like, oh no, was the whole thing he just had to bang Rita in order to end the loop? And then you realize within a minute that he's still fully dressed in the same clothes that he was wearing the night before. She says, like, oh, you just fell asleep immediately. They really address the fact. It's like, no, they didn't do it. They didn't do it. They just slept in the same bed. They didn't do anything in the bed. They just were friends sleeping in the bed together. But yeah, I love blood sausage. It's delicious. They mentioned blood
What
sausage.
What is it called? I couldn't tell what it was called. What is it?
Blood sausage. Have you ever had blood sausage?
And what is that?
It's like a sausage that's made with blood. It's like coagulated blood.
Very British.
Yeah.
Very British.
It's good.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's congealed blood in a sausage casing. Yeah.
It's hard blood?
Yeah, hard blood.
Yeah, it's not like a balloon.
Okay.
Seasoned. It doesn't just taste like fucking aluminum. Not a vampire.
So yeah, I'll give this 71 blood sausages out of a total of 100 blood sausages.
71 time looping blood.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good movie, but I think there's lots of problems with it, and I think that the concept itself is problematic, and it does deal with a lot of things that you would think it would deal with, but at the same time, it is still, to a degree, family friendly. Probably should be PG-13, not PG, but we're living in a different era, guys.
Yeah. All right. Caleb.
I think I just had a... Pardon?
Why don't you give us your final thought? Because I have one last rant.
Thank you. I think I had a bit of an epiphany. So, yes, to everything that we've said tonight. As I'm sitting here and listening and talking and listening, so uh, to there's this book called The Game, I think it's called, and it's like about this guy. He's like a writer, or used to be a writer for Rolling Stones, and then he like met this pickup artist guy who like taught
Gross.
classes how to pick up. And there's so you said gross, and there is definitely a level of grossness to it for sure. The as we're talking though, so the way like this movie paints it like a nice version, like it makes like a fairy tale version of a guy being a dirtbag trying to get it, and then uh, essentially not trying to pursue it anymore, and then gets it. And then, so I was like, we're here talking about this, and I'm, listening and talking, listening and talking. I'm like, because like that's kind of what happens, right? Like he's trying to go after it, but then when he stops trying to go after it, he starts doing well. So in the context of the movie, good, but if you kind of look at it through another lens, so like she sees these people come up to him and congratulate him and thank him, and like he's getting this status right from outside people. She's seeing a status. He's playing these instruments so well, like he's not paying her attention anymore, so then she wants to give him attention.
I don't know if that's accurate. He didn't specifically do those things in order to impress her. He did them to
I
help
don't
the
mean in
people.
this movie. I mean if looking at it through a different lens, like so the way
No,
like
that's
Yeah, the lens of a creep.
that's what I
mean,
mean.
there is some truth to that, right? But
I suppose, but I think in the reality of that day, he wasn't trying to like to her. He was an asshole yesterday, and now he's a good person today.
Right.
It's not like she's thinking, "Oh, he's not paying attention to me anymore." They just met like the day before. It's not like
yeah,
they've known
that's
each other
Right.
for a long time.
So I remember what caused the tangent. Someone said something about like how we should be mature enough to realize when he's being a shitty person. Like the movie's not trying to promote that it's a bad thing, right? As like this is how you should act. And then I was like, ooh, what if a shitty person just acts that way, but it still has the shitty intent or whatever, right?
Yes, those people are called narcissists and psychopaths. Um, I agree with you, and I think that the movie, again, like it's not particularly saying this is how you should act. It's saying this is how you should want to act. You should want to
Right.
be like this. You shouldn't do it for any reason other than the fact that you want to make sure that other
Selfless,
people
exactly. Selfishness versus selflessness. You do things for others, not yourself.
Yeah.
Can you guys still hear me
Also,
on the
also,
Yes.
I got a better Dave repeater.
Oh God.
Okay, you ready?
Maybe.
And this, okay. So my mom had like a limo service at the time, so she had like some limos and stuff, and she was away on business. This was like a few years ago. It was like when I was in high school, maybe, or shortly after high school. It would
Oh
have
yeah,
been like shortly after high school.
yeah. I almost forgot to ask you about your what day would you repeat again. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So she had a limo service. She was away on business. I checked the books for the limo, and they weren't booked for anything. So one day I woke up really early. I rolled some blunts. I went and picked up my friends. We went to the beach. It was in the summer. We went to the beach. We went to the beach. We had a great day. We went to casino buffet, and like I asked the guys like, can we get like a pitcher of orange juice, a pitcher of chocolate milk, a picture of something else, maybe pop or something. It was like, well,
Pitcher
I'm
of
only supposed to do
milk.
a cup. Chocolate milk is delicious.
I know, but I've never heard of somebody getting a pitcher of it.
I've seen it. Diners have them.
There's a reason.
Wild.
So he's like, I'm only supposed to bring a glass. And I'm like, well, how about instead of bringing a glass every couple minutes, you just give us the pitcher and you can chill and we'll be here and la, la, la. So that was a pretty dope day.
Wow, I didn't expect that answer. It's nowhere near what I thought it was going to be. The day when I drank a lot of orange juice and chocolate milk, it was great. It was a great day.
We let's all say that our loopable day was my wedding.
Yeah.
I want to
what's your
repeat
rating?
Jason's wedding.
Kaylin, what's your rating?
My rating. My rating is a crazy groundhog driving a vehicle. He was probably drunk. I think that groundhog was drunk when he was driving that truck. Out of one red truck.
Perfect.
Nice. I like convoluted, weird ratings that don't make sense.
So do I.
They're great.
It reminds me of On Cinema at the Cinema starring Tim Heidecker
or Monster Factory when Justin McElroy just gives like a weird, nonsensical rating.
He gives it on Cinema at the Cinema. They give it like popcorn, like things of popcorn. Anyway.
Yeah. I think Conan does it as well when he rates his video game.
Yeah, some nonsensical stuff. I unfortunately only gave this a 2.8, and I really just want to quickly. I think I've covered my problems with this movie, but the thing is unfortunately I maybe shouldn't have watched this movie again. It works a lot better as a memory. Looping in my memories, if you will, than it does trying to watch as a fucking fully formed-brained adult man or woman. Who knows? And
you don't know.
And I was just kidding when I said I had more rant to do. I don't. I just feel like it kind of pushes some weird wrong ideas for a certain era, and those weird wrong ideas don't really translate to now. But where they do translate are especially heinous because it's called catfishing, basically. Catfishing and gaslighting and manipulation are basically three things that he utilizes to date women, and that's disgusting to me. And
you really I agree with you, but they address it in the movie. I think that's a thing that really that is important, because without the addressing it, he's just a garbage monster.
Fair enough. You're right. Okay, so it's sort of addressed. It's marginally
but like
addressed.
You said earlier, and like Caitlin said in his analysis or his review, people will take the wrong thing, and I think that's what your point is, right? Yeah.
That is my point.
They'll see it as a tactic rather than a lesson learned.
And I'm afraid that this movie forms young brain to be like, get what you want, to do it however you can. And on top of that, the ending is dumb. The ending felt tacked on to a pretty good movie, like a pretty good plot, like a pretty good like character study of Phil, whether or not he's shitty or not.
Can I challenge him to a one bite anything off?
Who?
Phil, or you guys.
You can challenge me to whatever you'd like me to challenge.
If you challenge me, I will refuse, and I'll just watch you shove a whole piece of cake in your mouth, because I don't want to do that.
Oh yeah, the one bite cake.
It's a choking hazard.
Anything's one bite if you make it. But I hate the ending of this movie because it's so anticlimactic, because it's just kind of like that last day. She sees him play piano, and she like knows/remembers or something. Like I don't think it's implied that she like remembers. She's just like
a feeling.
Played a song that like whatever. And then the last like 5 minutes of the movie are them just being lovey-dovey. Like it doesn't really add anything. It's just the ending of a romantic comedy. And I especially
It's only because the fence was frozen.
Yeah. So like I said, 2.8 out of 5, and we have a good month coming up for you guys. I'm gonna edit this at some point, probably over the weekend, and I'm gonna add it to YouTube. I'm gonna throw it up on all social medias, and we'll have ourselves a place to go.
Hey Jason, may I say something?
Go ahead.
Your beard looks glorious.
It grew. I got it done professionally when I got my hair and beard cut, and it's growing in this like great way, and my gray is coming in. You could look at me and Kayla and be like, "Who's older?" And it's me.
What do you mean? Yo, so I watched that video, right? I look super gray in that shit. Like, I look a lot of gray. And even now, I look a lot of gray.
You look super, that's what I'm saying. You look super gray right now, but I'm older than you by, like, a little bit.
Well, I guess I'm just more, what's it called when you're gray? Pissed off?
Stressed out.
Stress.
I can't grow a
Yeah,
beard.
that's what I said.
Oh, I'm the baby.
Steve is alopecia. Nope. So with that, I have to.
It's not falling out. It just doesn't grow.
I have to ask a very important question to the viewer, to my friends, my colleagues, my confidants. Hey, did you see this one? See this one?
Oh, did you see this one?
Hey, see this one?
Did you see this one?
Hey!
See this one?
Did you see this one?
No.
Hey, wait, I got a little complaint. See this one?
I did. I saw it. I saw it
He
today
saw
and
it.
yesterday.
For Steve, for Kaylin, I'm Jason.
For Jason, for Kaylin, I am Steven.
For Steven. For Jason. I'm Kellen.
Good night, everybody. It was a wild ride, but we got this time this month is the tournament.
Loopuary.
Loopuaries.